Welcome to this episode of Tell Me More. We're in the studio with Connor Toreallaba, our special guest, talking about life with college students. We're talking about character and virtue. We go a lot of places, and it's really fun.
Yeah, what an adventure.
It's quite the adventure. And we look forward to you listening to it.
Okay, well, it is time for another episode of Tell Me More, and we don't have Dr. Wiles today. We have Connor Toreallaba.
Significant downgrade, but here I am.
No. Dr. Wiles is
we're all equal at the foot of the cross.
He's at the end of the
That's
sermon,
true.
or at the end of the service, really, yesterday. He talked about he is in South Carolina he's leading, actually, a pastor's retreat it's really a mixed, it's not a BDCT, it's Ascent adjacent. It's just kind of a network of pastors, a retreat for them and their spouses, if their spouses could get there, or wives. I can say wives, it's all men. Pastors
Great.
and wives.
Great.
And Cindy's with them leading kind of that part. And I hope it's really refreshing and good, but that's where they are today. And we chose the obvious choice today, which was to get Connor Toreallaba in here.
Why was it the obvious choice, Katy?
He's done with school stuff. He's not busy. Get him in here.
He's got free time, ease, convenience. No.
Abundance.
That was College Grad Sunday.
Yeah, it was College Grad Sunday yesterday. And so you had a big part in the service, I think,
fun.
a significant part in the service. And so I want to talk to you about that. I want to talk to you about just Connor updates. I want to talk about it all. So where do you want to start? How about just broadly like, hello, Connor.
Hi.
If our people just started watching this maybe 6 months ago or listening in, they might not have had like this interpersonal time with you. So just give us a very short rundown. Who are you? Where are you from?
I'm Connor.
Where'd you go to school?
Yes.
All that.
So I grew up in Arlington. So I've been here pretty much my whole life.
You're a native.
I'm a native.
Can you tell us like what pocket of Arlington? Did you have like the same?
South Arlington over by the mall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
That's where I did. But I was homeschooled all the way through. And then I went to DBU for 1 year. And then transferred to UTA for the rest of my college career, and then did summer classes at TCC. So for
as
the
far
most
as
part,
being a college minister in this setting,
if a college student walks into our room, for the most part, I've gone to their school,
that's
which is
awesome.
fun.
Yeah, I would imagine
cool.
that is only in the positive category.
Been very helpful. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So after that, where'd you go?
I went to the workforce for 4 years, and then shifted to bivocational ministry, doing college ministry at Tate Springs Baptist Church for 4 years. And during that, I went to Criswell College and got my Master's of Christian Studies.
Very nice.
I want to talk about both those things.
Sure.
One, tell me about your workforce.
I worked in
What'd you do?
data support, like database support. So I was the person on the other side of the phone call when you were mad that your stuff wasn't working.
Oh, we love it. We love it.
So
that only helps you in ministry.
It does.
The customer service element.
It makes most phone calls not intimidating anymore.
Yeah, you're like, I can do this.
Yeah, you know, and it helps with when I interface with somebody that my internet isn't working. I'm like, you know what? I've been the other person on the other side of that.
That's so nice. Yeah.
So yeah, I did that for a while. It was all right, but I really wanted to do ministry the whole time, and so yeah, it was good.
And
Paid
tell
the
me,
bills.
for the people listening, and I may have talked about this in here before, but it's been a long time. When we hear Criswell, maybe like 3-5 years ago, before we got to know you and Terry Moore, we thought very conservative, maybe not our ilk. Do you know what I mean?
Maybe. I have no idea. Really.
Yeah, well,
like
my sense is
what the perception of it
yeah,
was.
well, I'd say previously, my perception before knowing any people that were associated with it is that it spun off of First Baptist Dallas, which is more conservative than us, and just probably had a pretty strong view about women and leadership, that kind of thing.
Sure.
Then I met you, and then our Terry Moore works there, and it's like, I need to rethink what I think about Criswell. So tell me about your experience at Criswell. What's your take?
It was great. I mean, I went there mostly because at the time when I was looking for seminaries, I think Southwestern was without a president, or it was like in some kind of interim phase around that time.
That makes sense.
And a lot of crazy stuff was happening. Crazy stuff's always happening, but a lot of crazy stuff was happening during that time when I was kind of like looking around. And most of the staff at Tate Springs were Criswell alumni. Oh. And I was like, well, I hadn't really heard of it. I like these guys, and I respect their point of views. And they seem like they're pretty moderate in a lot of things. And so I looked into it, and the thing that drew me towards it was small. And so it's way smaller than UTA. But one of my favorite classes I got to do while I was there was on mankind, sin, and salvation.
Mankind, sin, and salvation.
Yeah, just a few topics, you know. Yeah.
Light.
Yeah. But
inconsequential,
it was
really.
awesome because it was just me, the professor, and one other guy.
Wow. So
that
you
wasn't
can't
the
hide.
case. Yeah,
You
that
can't
wasn't,
hide in that
yeah,
class.
that wasn't the case with most of the classes. Most of the classes were like 10, 15 people or whatever.
Yeah.
But
But that one had 2 people
that shook
registered.
out to be that way.
And they kept the class. They didn't drop it,
yeah,
which is significant.
And it was awesome because, you had to always be up on your reading.
Yeah.
And you couldn't be late on your assignments because if you weren't up on your reading, then we can't really have a conversation in this class.
Right. That's the end
and
of it.
so it wasn't as much of a like lecture as much as it was like this, sitting around and saying, well, what did you think about this part?
Yeah.
And
Who was your professor for that?
I think it was Dr. Larson, I think. But my gosh, incredible class, really great experience. Loved everybody there. Bummer thing is that COVID happened during it. So a lot of like the in-class stuff that I was really hoping for, I didn't get as much of that, but I mean, everybody did the best they could with COVID. So
That is a great summary statement. Yeah.
So, but hey, I finished my graduate degree by hitting submit on a Blackboard assignment, and I was like, all right, I guess we're done.
Well, I don't know what this is supposed to feel like.
I walked the stage. We still were able to do that.
Okay.
We got
Did you graduate in 2020?
No, it was 21, I think. 21 or 22.
Yeah. Well, particularly if you walked the stage, it probably wasn't 2020. No. That was a very,
I think
very
it was.
virtual.
I think it was May 21.
Okay.
Maybe I'll have to check my diploma.
Yeah.
But I'm done. I graduated, so
good job.
We did
and then
it.
And then we got you pretty quickly after that, right?
Yeah,
that
pretty soon.
Right
around the time I was finishing up, I kind of stepped down from the position at Tate because I didn't want to like have to leave halfway through a year, and we were pursuing like whether or not we're going to do church planting or something else like that.
So
and then
felt like the
you said we. For those who don't know, who's
married
the
to
other
Patience.
part about we?
We didn't catch
the
that
coolest
yet.
person is Patience for sure. She's a data scientist and amazing.
So y'all, at one point, y'all were both data people.
I did database support. She's been an economist and a data, much more impressive.
I don't know either, so it is what it is.
Yeah, but she does calculus all day and helps multi-million-dollar companies make decisions every day. So yeah, that's what she does.
NBD.
Yeah, that's what she
NBD.
does.
So, how did you pick up Patience along the way?
We started dating in college. We knew each other from high school. We were friends. We went to senior prom together.
Oh,
and then
all right, the old prom date.
Worked out. Only person I've ever gone on dates with is Patience, but
really,
yeah.
How about that?
Not really like intentionally, but that's just kind of how it worked out. And so, yeah.
I like it very much.
She's great.
Yeah, we're big fans.
Oh man, I'm the biggest fan.
Big fans of Patience Toreallaba.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, Wilkerson. Yeah.
Patience Wilkerson.
Yes.
Did she not change her name?
She didn't. No.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, socially, we're the Toreallabas, but yeah, she's Patience Wilkerson.
Oh, good. Thank you for the correction.
Oh, you're good. Yeah.
No, I want to know. I want to do it right. My name on my driver's license has never changed, and probably won't because it feels like a lot of work.
That's a solid part of it. Yeah, for sure.
This is my confession. But socially, we're the Hodges, and I'm a Hodges.
Exactly.
But, yeah. So,
yeah. You get it. We get it. Yeah,
I don't know. To each their own. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mutual submission and all that.
Yes.
So, Connor, will you help me? Anything else about you that you want? I mean, just not to. Do you have a favorite hobby right now? Is there a video game you're playing?
We're doing
what's
playing Dungeons and Dragons, so hosting it tonight. So it's
you're the dungeon master, right?
I am.
That takes a specific set of skills.
It takes a lot of nerd energy to do it, but it's a lot of fun. I like it.
But it's not just nerd energy; it's nerd energy put in motion. Like there's a planning
it's like,
and execution
what if you got
element
to have
it?
creative control of something and just do a bunch of logistics at the same time? And I'm like, that sounds fun.
That's like college management, but the other side of the brain, right?
But the thing I tell people is it's a fun, creative outlet that's not writing a sermon or writing a Bible lesson or something like that.
I before the kids used to enjoy doing my yard because it's the same idea, I think. The other side of the brain, it's a little more cut and dry.
Right.
Like I have edged this garden and it looks nice and I can walk away and be,
Yeah.
But I don't have time for much of that right now. But
I'm excited for tonight. It's going to be fun.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Been planning it for a month. Here we go.
Whoa. And it's tonight? Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah. We usually play about
Thanks
once
for
a month.
making time for this. I mean, that's a big... Today was already a big day on your calendar.
It's tonight, though. This is after work.
No, I'm just messing.
Yeah, we're good.
That's great. Well, that's very fun. My husband has started playing D&D.
Yeah, we've talked about it.
He enjoys it very much. He plays online. He plays on Zoom.
What's his character's name?
This is all I know. Is that his character's name is Yam Yam.
Yam Yam. Yes, I know. He's like a monk or something, like some kind of
All I know is that his name is Yam Yam, and what other thing I know is that when they play, he plays with a lot of his network of friends.
Right.
Maybe one of them lives in Arlington. I can't remember who all plays, but it's mostly like seminary friends and adjacent. So it's got Amarillo friends where I grew up, and they're all over.
It's
Houston, Temple,
That's so
It's
fun.
a game that
Amarillo.
translates pretty well to remote play.
Yeah, so this is what I know about it. His character's name is Yam Yam, and he's told me everything, and I just don't remember anything.
Oh, dude, come on.
Absorbed.
And he does not want to miss it when they play.
Yeah.
So this is what I know about it.
It's so fun.
Shout out to Yam Yam.
Shout out to Yam Yam.
And I think it has to do with the quality of your friendship around the
Right.
table too. Because it's hilarious if it's your good friend.
Right.
Kind of getting into character and doing what. So anyway, Dungeons and Dragons, it might sound a little cultish and a little bit weird, but
it's not.
It doesn't have to be.
No, it's not.
No, not when Connor Toreallaba's the dungeon master.
That's true. We're fighting a cult in this one, so it's fine. They're the bad guys. So
This is what you've architected.
yeah.
I love it.
So.
I love it. Okay.
As we think about cult and this present evil age.
What a transition.
Wow.
Man.
Go on.
Connor, how is the Lord renewing your mind?
What's the question?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, I did have a question.
I'm trying to think about how to get to
Before
it.
we get to the sermon, is
Okay.
it okay?
Yeah.
Because we haven't had Connor in here in a while, as we've started this big flourishing journey. I did
Yes.
kind of want to know, like, Connor, you're a thoughtful guy. You're trying to translate all of this kind of church-wide initiatives that Dr. Wiles comes to us with. You're trying to translate those to meaningful ministry to the college
Sure.
students or with the college students. So when you think about flourishing, particularly this series that we're starting is character and virtue, and I know we've had staff retreats and thought about it, so you've absorbed a lot of this. How do you think this flourishing conversation can really impact the life of a college student? Why does
As it relates
why
to
does it
character
matter
and
to them?
virtue, or just the flourishing stuff?
You take either one. You want to do the
Start broad,
flourishing?
go specific.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the flourishing stuff from like a broad perspective with college students is, I think when you have the pieces of your life put in the right order, you just have less anxiety. You know, like one of the things that I teach our lead team students during our training is how to manage your time. Like that's a whole session is like, here's what a calendar app is, and here's how you structure out study times and church times and all this kind of stuff. Because for the most part, if you talk to a college student, you ask them that's like trying to pursue their faith, how do you want to grow? Like, I really want to be more consistent reading my Bible or praying is usually the answer that they give. And the real solution to that is not you just don't want it hard enough, which is what some people say. The real solution to that is you need to order your time and you need to actually have a schedule.
What's the next
Right.
step?
You know, and so,
Yeah.
but most people have never been trained on actually how to have a schedule. And so that is one way that we're trying to lean into this flourishing aspect of things is, okay, how do we order our life? And a lot of the things with the flourishing domains, when put in the right order, I think you can have a better handle on a more full life in that regard, in a way that God has designed you to live. And, you know, first priority being your time with the Lord and taking unhurried time with him and inviting him into every day, and then structuring everything else on top of that foundation.
The great prioritization.
I think so. Yeah.
It's cool. Very practical.
Yeah. And then from like a broad perspective, outside of character and virtue, this past semester, we did an experiment, which was, I think, a successful one. We had a 6-week series where we brought in counselors from our counseling center to come in and talk about, and you helped partner with this, but to help talk through 6 key issues that are facing college students, like questions like, how do I deal with anxiety and depression, or how do I deal with suicidal thoughts or addiction or whatever, and hearing from Christian licensed counselors that can talk through the
Good plug for the counseling center.
it was great. Yeah.
Our center, the Center for Integrative Counseling and Psychology is the full name. We call it the center.
Yeah.
They're just staffed with really quality people.
Oh,
so
man.
there's
It
a little
was so
plug.
much fun. We did it kind of like
Somebody's
this.
listening. Somebody's wanting,
Yeah, we did it kind of like this, like a podcast setup where I interviewed them. And
which I think was a good move because it can be intimidating, and the college students can lose interest if you just have like an hour-long lecture
Right.
from one of them that they don't know.
Right.
But the interview where you can kind of
yeah, I mean that's their
Keep the pace.
That's their realm as a conversation anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we recorded it as well. It's on our podcast feed. It's FBCA College Podcast. If you want to go listen to those.
There's
6
another
sessions.
podcast
There
in
is.
the FBCA
Yeah.
universe.
We try to upload our Thursday lessons to that. We also uploaded all of the sessions with the counselors there. So
Cool.
if you're interested in that, like, I think it's pretty evergreen content, and I think it's pretty applicable to anybody. It's not just college students, but obviously it's
just good
been towards
biblical
that.
truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So generally flourishing, that's kind of the direction we went with it. When we think about character and virtue,
Because for the counseling thing, there's a specific domain.
Right,
That's
mental health.
mental and physical
Right.
health. Yeah. So
Right.
just jumping in right on that one. As college students, need to get that right. Kind of like you're saying, like get that oriented right before anything else can kind of.
And I think that'll become like those recordings will be a resource for years to come.
That's great. I love that. Yeah.
But character and virtue, it's been interesting. I think with the rise of AI, it's become more of a conversation within our own student body about the temptation towards using it for assignments, or not just like, okay, a study help, but like an answer to the whole assignment is I just put it into this and then reword it.
And so that would test their character?
Yeah, I think so. Because you're not, it's just a way to cheat. I mean, without mincing words on it.
Yeah.
And I think for the most part, the conversations I've had with students is like, yeah, I don't want to do that, or I did that once and I feel bad about it, or whatever. So I think that even talking about, okay, what is the benefit of study and being a person of integrity, even with the work that you're doing there. Like, I think there's benefits to using some AI for some things like that, but I don't think it should be used as an escape for work that you should be doing. Right.
For anything.
Or thinking through. Right. Yeah.
It's a challenge in ministers' world as well.
Sure.
Because it can write you a devotional if you need one.
Yeah.
But
yeah, in my view, I'm like, if it's something that should be informed by communing with the Spirit, then you definitely shouldn't use AI for it.
Right. AI can be a tool. Like I'm teaching Pastor's Bible Study Wednesday.
Right.
And I'm teaching, I'm doing the devotional Lordship tomorrow.
Okay.
So there's, I'm kind of, this morning I was getting all that organized. And I was wanting some texts. Where is this in the Bible? Well, ChatGPT really helped me get kind of a chart going.
Yeah.
That's about as far as that needs to go for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
And it says something like, would you like me to da-da-da? And it's, one of the options, I can't remember what exactly it said, but like, would you like me to write a short devotional? And it's like, probably not.
Yeah.
But like the temptation to be like, sure.
Yeah.
Take that off my schedule,
Yeah.
But
for sure. But I mean, I think students definitely feel that
integrity,
same,
right?
Yeah.
To do that.
Students still feel that same level of pressure with it. And I think, I mean, we similarly felt of like, I could just Google this, or maybe the answers are online somewhere. I think we faced a similar thing in our educational life, but I don't know.
Yeah. There's always been forms of it, right?
Yeah.
Cutting corners,
right?
Cheating,
which
moral integrity.
Right.
I mean, any industry, whoever's listening can kind of picture whatever temptation is in their work, you know. So whether that's a banker and embezzlement, or however heavy you want to go, but we've all got temptations to cut corners, and sometimes you could even get away with them. So it's not about getting caught. Yeah. It's about like your inner integrity.
And I think it speaks to like the heart of that temptation isn't. Sometimes it's like I want to appear smart or something, but I think most of it is I want to escape this stress, and like that is something that if you don't have character and virtue, you can seek that escape of stress or that escape of whatever it is that you're trying to do through a variety of different routes that aren't God honoring, and so we need that character and virtue so that when we do face those challenges, we don't start off the path to a shortcut that ultimately only harms us.
Amen and amen. Well, that leads us directly to...
Let's roll.
The actual sermon.
Hey, we're in.
Yeah.
We made it.
We did it. It's like D&D. We've unlocked that door. I've only played once.
Sure, Katy.
And it shows. This is just like Dungeons and Dragons. I'll be there now. What time
We're
tonight?
having a conversation.
I'm so ready.
This is the same thing. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about the sermon.
Yeah.
What you got for us, Katy?
Tell me where you want to start. There's a lot. The question that I really do have, and if you want to jump right to it, I think there's a lot we could talk about. But for both of you, you live in kind of an evangelical world where, I care about people knowing Jesus and want to help, but some of my day-to-day is very internal, right? Care and connection and but I'm just imagining if a non-believer is sitting in the church or hearing this sermon, because it has this dichotomy, kind of, maybe that's not the best word, of like the present evil age and a mind that is still evil. And, there's these words in it. And I'm not saying they're wrong. A lot of them are really biblical, but like Dr. Wiles used the phrase like an unfit mind. Just how would you translate this? Or even if someone who was in the sermon yesterday and they come to you and they're like, so do you really think like my mind just doesn't get it because I don't have the Holy Spirit? Do you know what I mean? Like, what would you say to them? How would you meet them where they are? What do you think they heard?
It's interesting because I think on one level, you could nuance that differently to them if it was in the conversation there.
Yeah.
But the more conversations that I have with the younger side of, college students and stuff like that, they just want you to tell it like it is. Like, Tell it to me straight.
So if you say to them,
they
like,
actually,
this is actually what we believe.
I think that resonates with them more
And
than
it'd be
if you're
fine.
like kind of beating around the bush or something and overly nuancing it to some degree. They're just like, what are you trying to say? Well, I'm trying to say that your mind is unfit. Oh, okay, thank you. Like, there's some
I'm
of
trying
that.
to say
I
that
think
you
they
do not
appreciate.
have a renewed mind.
Right.
And so you're not going to get this that we're trying to do.
I think there's an appreciation there. But Luke, what do you think?
Yeah. Because I live in the jaded millennial era.
Sure.
I mean, I really do.
Yeah.
That's my peers. That's my world that we grew up in, you know.
Yeah. I have thoughts. So
we want to hear them.
I think a lot about this. So if you think about that renewing mind, that metanoia, it's this like, it's thinking. So it's an exercise in thinking, but it's this even bigger kind of thinking. That's metanoia, this being renewed in the mind.
That's the Greek for what was used in Romans.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought you were speaking French, but that's cool.
I'm not that good.
The metanoia.
Something
It's
Italian.
me, a metanoia.
Italian suddenly. All right, whatever.
We went Italian.
Did they share a border? Because I'm talking about
believe
that
so.
specific region.
I think they do.
Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know.
Just through
Yeah.
So I'm gonna dabble in some like postmodern philosophy, which
Okay,
may
cool.
Here we go.
it's not scary, I promise.
Buckling up.
So a lot of like when we think about how we perceive the world, and this is kind of how I think about an unfit mind, and if I were to like go into an apologetic for it using the philosophical toolkit of culture,
That was a big sentence, Luke. Go.
we're going to use the philosophical toolkit of culture to help
Don't have that in my
create an
closet.
apologetic.
Okay.
Yeah, Luke's bringing that toolkit.
Yeah.
Let's unpack it.
Okay,
What's
so
in it?
It's made of metaphors.
you know, we think about like the way that language or ideology shape our perception. So ideology, just kind of handy definition, and so many of us inhabit ideologies. We have ideologies. We're not even really aware that we possess these ideologies. But an ideology really is just this system of beliefs or discourse that would be like a thought pattern that shapes our understanding of the world. And there's one philosopher who would say that it leads to a false consciousness. And so ideology is this thing that we've all got. And it causes us to perceive reality in a certain way, and it may not be how the world really is. And ideology is really powerful in culture today.
Is that different than worldview? It's a cousin?
It's a cousin. Worldview, in my experience, is really only used by Christian philosophers.
Okay.
Sure.
So generally only by conservative Christian philosophers. So if I see someone talking about worldview, I'm like,
That's
okay.
like, that waves a little banner
Yeah, I'm like,
for you.
I kind of have an idea of maybe where you're coming from. Ideology is kind of a broader term.
in like a more
used in
philosophical world. Okay,
secular
that's helpful for me.
place.
I learned something new today.
And I could be wrong. You could find something, cite it, prove me wrong.
Yeah, and you're not trying to poo-poo on anybody that uses the word worldview.
Yeah, worldview just tends to be used
But
by
for your
our
argument
tribe.
today. Yeah, that makes sense. So if you're talking to someone who's not in a Christian subculture, you might want to use the word ideology because you're trying to understand.
And worldview is not a bad word.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, we're not poo-pooing.
Ideology just tends to be more commonly used. And so everybody's got ideology. And one of the interesting things about ideology is you tend not to be talked out of your ideology even when you're presented with facts that prove it otherwise.
So it's quite deep-rooted.
It's quite deep-rooted. And so just getting exposed to facts that discount or disprove your ideology doesn't necessarily change your opinion about your ideology. We could think of examples. I'll let you fill those examples in at home. Because if you have that ideology and I start going against it, you're going to get mad at me because we hold our ideology
change, is what
tightly.
I'm hearing. Yeah.
We hold it. It's deep-rooted. And if you think about ideology as like when... And this is not all that Paul is talking about when he talks about the principalities and powers of this world. Ideology operates in that way. It is a principality and power in this world that shapes your thinking, that holds your thinking down. And even if you were to encounter truth, you're actually unable to perceive it. And even when you encounter that truth, if you do perceive it, you perceive it as a threat to the way that you've ordered and structured reality in your own mind. And so you end up doubling down and holding on to it even more tightly, and you grasp it. And so what changes ideology is a shift in experience or perception. And so if we were to switch over from the ideological discussion and philosophy to the linguistic one, we're getting really super nerdy here today.
Go. We'll translate it in a minute.
I think, especially if you're monolingual, and most people in the U.S. only speak one language.
Yeah.
If you're monolingual, you actually don't grasp the way that language and speaking other languages actually shapes the way that you perceive the world. You actually like bilingual, trilingual people have different personalities in different languages. They perceive the world differently through different linguistic lenses. And it's really powerful. And here's an example of this. So you can actually Google, there's the Himba tribe in Namibia, Himba in Namibia. And they've done studies on the Himba tribe because they can't see the color blue because they don't have a word for it. So linguists have actually taken like screens to the Himba people in Namibia and put like a blue square that's very, to our eyes, very clearly blue, and put it on a screen with a bunch of green squares. And the Himba people can't identify the blue square. And it's just because they don't have a word for it.
Yeah.
If you actually start linguistically educating the Himba people about a word for blue and differentiating from the word for green, they actually start to perceive the difference. Huh. And it's because language shapes this perception of reality. And so when I think about metanoia and when I think about this unfit mind, it's really, we're all trapped by ideology. And what you could probably say to someone is, you think about the way that your neighbor believes in this and you don't believe it. And you've gotten to an argument with them on Facebook and you've presented facts and figures and statistics and they still don't believe you.
Yeah.
You haven't changed their mind. It's because we can't shake ourselves of our own ideology, especially because I think most ideology is rooted in sin. And it's rooted in the powers and principalities of this world. So when I think about an unfit mind, when I think about metanoia, it's truly a work of encountering and experiencing the Holy Spirit. And that's the only way that we actually get freed from these ideologies that cause us to perceive reality as it is not. Because what we know, thanks to the work of the Spirit and the revealed word of the Bible, is that God is in control of everything.
Right.
That Jesus is Lord, Jesus is King in life, and his kingdom is better. And if you're trapped in an ideology, even if you were to see the facts, you may still go, hold on to your own ideology, but it's that encounter with the Spirit that changes your mind, that metanoia. It's really about that redemption of the mind.
I think it highlights the fact that even changing your mind is miraculous,
Yeah.
Say more.
I don't know. I think we can pigeonhole the miraculous into like signs and wonders.
Oh, yeah.
But if it is as hard as Luke
Raising
is
someone
describing,
from the dead.
then no big deal. But if it is as hard as Luke is describing, then that almost feels miraculous.
Yeah, think about your last Facebook argument.
Yeah, that's the work of God.
I'm not logged into Facebook in a long time.
Good for you. And even if you did, let's avoid the
Don't argue
arguments.
on Facebook.
Oh, yeah, it's not a great place to change someone's mind.
Yeah.
It's just a place to get more mad.
Yeah, but that's an example of
And find good
ideology
stuff on
at work.
Marketplace.
Hey, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, I do love Facebook Marketplace.
One of the only reasons a lot of us have it.
Yeah, but I
Okay,
think
go on.
that's a cultural way of explaining an unfit mind, and it's really like, look, you're locked
You're just not gonna
into
change your mind.
patterns of thinking that have shaped the way you see the world that may or may not be true in certain ways. And even if you were to, and this is, like the Nazis got locked into an ideology.
Right.
This is a relatively safe example. If you're at First Baptist Arlington and you identify as a Nazi, I would really love to talk to you.
Let's talk.
But
We're going to work on that unfit mind.
yeah,
It's going to be straight.
But you think about the way that almost an entire nation bought into ideology, and even when they were presented with the facts, they just kind of held on to it. And it took a radical experience to break them of that. Mm-hmm. Ideology is powerful, and I would say it really takes a work of the Spirit to undo it.
Yeah. I think about when I'm sharing with somebody and we're having this conversation about like, I don't know if I would use the phrase unfit mind or like present evil age, just because that's not how I talk. But I think
Sure.
What
if they brought it to you? Hey, I was at church with you last Sunday. I hear this present evil age. Am I evil?
Yeah. But I think
Make it a little more normal for you.
In those conversations that I have, I usually try to bring it more to a standpoint of agreement of things aren't as they should be. Like the world's messed up.
Yeah, most people really agree with that one.
Yeah, and so I think if you can, this is just good for any evangelistic conversation you have. If you can find the place of agreement, that's an easier spot to start with than how do I change their mind because of all the reasons you just said. Obviously, the work of the Spirit is involved in all of that too. That's not to discount it, but I think God gives us all kinds of tools and all kinds of opening conversations to have with that. And so, whenever we're having a conversation about okay, why did Jesus have to come and die and all of that? I usually point towards the thing that we all agree on is that things are not as they should be, and that is more what I think about when I think about the present evil age. I think, things aren't as they should be, but one day they will be, and don't you want to be part of that?
Yeah.
Good.
Anything to that?
It's very disarming.
We talked about theories of the atonement a few weeks ago. And in my experience, I don't know if this is true for you working with college students, when I think about atonement theories and how I use them to talk about the gospel, I don't necessarily line out like, now here's this theory of the atonement.
Yeah.
But it's informing the kind of conversation I'm having. I have found that I do better in having conversations with people when I approach sin and the world from a Christus Victor, meaning that Christ is victorious over all of these things and sets us free from these things. I do better when I take a Christus Victor approach, that Christ the King has defeated these things and has made the way for you. He is freeing you from these powers, these principalities, these ideologies, this broken world where things just don't work. He's victorious over it, and one day that victory will be evident, and he's made a way for you into it.
Yeah.
And so I find I get more traction sharing the gospel in that way in our kind of current context. And you may have different experiences.
It's interesting.
It's all what's personal to you, how it works for you.
I think that's great too. I don't know if the way that I do it is different, but usually like the end goal that I'm pointing people towards is, wouldn't it be awesome to just get to sit and talk with God like we're doing right now? And that's how it used to be. Like, we're usually in a coffee shop and I'm like, what if you could have coffee with God? And usually they're like, oh man, that would be amazing. We used to be able to do that. Here is what happened. Here's how we get back to that relationship. And then you can have that conversation. That's probably similar in some ways of like,
restoration is in both of those.
Right?
Yeah, the restoration of all things.
And I think that resonates really well for a college student because they're looking for a connection, right? We all are, but and that's not to be like a salesman-y or whatever about it. Like, what are they looking for? But
the gospel has so many angles, like a prism.
It's a beautiful jewel with a lot of facets.
Yeah,
absolutely.
facets is a better word for it. And so it's not cheating to take an angle that appeals to someone. I had a college student years ago when I was at South Plains College in Levelland, Texas. And she said, I became a Christian because I didn't have any friends. And someone told me that Jesus could be my friend.
Yep.
And that was her. It was the key to unlock this whole world for her, you know. And I don't think that's cheating because Jesus is so big. God is so big.
And it doesn't matter what you say unless the Spirit's in it.
Right. It just meets you. He just meets you where you are. And so, same with, when we talked atonement theories, it was like, what happened on the cross? And the answer is kind of like, yes. Like so many things, and you can overemphasize one or undersell the other, but it's not just A, B, or C. It's not just righting the wrong in Genesis 3, but it is. And it's not just Christus Victor, but it is. And, it's not just penal substitution, but it is. And so I think, so it is with presenting the gospel. Like the good news is so big.
Right.
And it impacts all areas of our life.
Right.
That, God can help us kind of start with a person where it means the most to them, right? Through the Spirit, right?
Yeah.
Like, God, what are you telling me to bring up? What angle, what facet are you telling me to kind of just start with? To disarm, to meet in the middle?
What has God already been doing in their life to draw them to Himself?
Yeah.
And
that's that common ground that you're talking about, and not adding fuel to some fire where you're trying to win a war, that we're not going to win. But kind of like you were saying, like we're not going to change your ideology just by presenting some argument.
Yeah,
right.
I'm not an arguer. I don't like arguing.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm good at it.
No, I don't think it gets many people where they want to go.
Yeah.
So
anytime that I've had anything so close to a debate at UTA campus, I usually just point it back to, but what do you think about Jesus?
Yeah.
Because that's really what we're talking about. Because if he's not God and King and good and all that, then all this doesn't, whether or not it was the Red Sea or the Reed Sea, like it doesn't really matter.
These are interesting.
It matters.
These are interesting.
But, Jesus isn't God. Then
right. But some of it's unknowable and it's interesting to think about and look at but at the end of the day, like, what are you doing with your life?
Yeah.
And who's your Lord?
Yeah.
So
who's Jesus and what do you think about him?
Yeah.
That's the question I think everybody's got to figure out.
Yeah.
Who do you say that I am?
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah. If Jesus says it, then it must be good.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, can I ask we're kind of wrapping up, but Connor, big picture, college ministry in 2025, like what's the kind of not state of the union, but given all of this, like what's your hope? You just graduated a class, they're off to the world. What's your hope for them? What do you see God doing in this generation? I just want kind of a...
Also, can I just... All three of us at this table have been college ministers.
Wow.
That's true. Wow.
And may
College
I
ministry
say,
matters.
as the... I'm not... What's the right word? I was the last college minister before Connor. Is there a good word for that? As the
Emeritus? I'm just kidding.
College minister.
I don't deserve that. My jersey does not deserve to be retired. No. But I am so glad you're in that seat, Connor.
Oh,
I mean,
thank
I've
you.
told you that
Yes.
before, and I mean it with all my heart. I
Sure.
just
Thank you.
prayed when I left that, and I told the search committee, like, here's the profile of who I think needs to follow me. Here's what I think would be great.
Yeah.
And it's really kind of a Connor Toreallaba. So
man.
it just feels like a God fit to have
Thanks.
you here. Yeah.
Means
And
a lot.
I'm excited to see it really grow beyond what I could have done. I mean, I'm not talking about me. I'm not insulting me, but you're just such a good fit for that seat. And I think it's good to see people in the right seats.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty thrilled to have you
Well, it
here.
feels good. It's fun to be here.
Oh, I'm pumped about it.
Yeah.
And Luke, you're in the right seat too. Because
so
I
fun.
think by now it's a pretty open secret. You interviewed for the college job.
I did.
And it landed you in this job.
It did.
And I think it's all, God
I think
just,
we're both very happy.
Yeah.
God
for
just
sure.
works through all of this in ways that we cannot orchestrate on our own.
It's true.
Yep.
Even
Yeah.
though
Amen.
I wish I could sometimes.
So college ministry in 2025.
Yeah.
We derailed.
Affirm. Just
Affirm.
I hear so much good
Thank you.
nationally from the college ministry, and then I see so much with my own eyes here.
Sure.
But just and end us on a hopeful note.
Yeah, I think I do have a lot of hope for the future. I think, like I said, Gen Z, they really want you to tell it to them straight about what's going on, not beating around the bush, which makes conversations a lot faster, and you're able to just have the conversation quickly. I think there's a growing sense of unrest, which is usually like that's fertile ground for people turning to, man, what is going to be firm and stable and
Good.
and it's it's God, and so a lot of them turning back to the Lord. We're seeing more statistics about that, not just from a standpoint of like, oh man, there's a quote unquote revival happening over here, or there is a revival happening over at this campus. Like those are awesome things. And I don't discount that at all. And we pray for more of that. But I think as a whole, it seems like they're trending more towards either an interest in spiritual things or an openness to a spiritual conversation.
Right.
To the point where, like, I don't know, I haven't had as many debate me bro kind of conversations in the last couple of years as I did when I was on campus at UTA as a student.
Yeah.
I think that the tone has shifted a bit. Some of it is like,
my
well,
sense
you
as
believe what
well.
you want to believe and I'll believe what I want to believe.
Yeah.
But
I've also seen, and I'm not trying to
Yeah.
take over, but when I was college minister in several different settings in my era, the apologetics movement was kind of there.
Yeah.
Like it was more debate, like
Yeah.
learn what you
Yeah.
what you believe, the kind of Lee Strobel
Yeah.
case for Christ.
Right.
And I've seen even Gary Stidham talk about now, like it's more about the welcoming
Yeah.
community, and there's a different posture of what's going to win people over, or
the
kind of
conversation
what the itch is
less
different.
about is it true and more about is it good. Right. And that
good.
was,
Yeah.
that's not me. That's Gary, I think.
Oh.
We'd all just quote Gary the whole
let's
time.
all, I mean, we've all been shaped by Gary, whether we know it or not.
Yeah.
He's one of those,
Yeah. But I think that that is something that has been encouraging to me. But at the end of the day, like every year that we've done college ministry here that I've been here, it's we've seen many people come to Christ and many people get baptized and join the church and all this. And I really do think it's because I have no idea about anything prior to all that, but at least from my tenure here, just approaching it with a really clear posture of prayer has been the real game changer. We're prayer walking UTA campus every day this summer.
You want to give a plug for that?
Yeah, I mean, every summer that I've been here, I've prayer walked every single day, UTA.
If someone who was listening wanted to meet you for that and join you
Yeah.
for prayer walking, how would they do that?
Email me, connor.toreallaba@fbca.org.
Okay.
Good.
But we're starting that up on
Yeah, that's what I was
the week
gonna
of the
ask.
18th.
The week of the 18th.
Because
Which
I've got a
coming up. Today's
conference.
the 5.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
got a conference this week, and then next week we're kind of getting our bearings in order for summer stuff, and then every day over the summer I'll be prayer walking UTA and praying that the Lord would prepare the hearts of students and prepare people that are coming this fall. And every time that we've done that, we see, all the baptisms and all the students who
Yeah.
give their life to Christ and all of that. And I really think it's because
great.
if you don't have a prayer strategy, you don't have a strategy. And so for us,
Okay, say that again. Let's just start
it's
there.
very important. So, this past year, this last summer was right after Dad passed. And I was very much just like, I don't think I can be fun college guy this year. I don't know what this is going to be like.
Yeah.
I don't really know that I would qualify myself as fun college guy anyway.
But it was abundantly clear that you weren't going to be that year.
It was just a good reminder of like, Lord, I can't do this without you. And I think we've had our best year yet. And it's because you just kind of...
So tell me what you learned in that.
Let go and honestly, like, trust that God is able to do what he needs to do. Like, I mistakenly thought that... I came to the realization that in my head, even though I would not have said this, but subconsciously what I was thinking was, if I let go and leave it to God, I have to be okay with whatever I'm doing being kind of bad. I have to be okay with it being not as good as I want it to be, which is just not true and very prideful. And so...
Yeah, if you let God do it, it'll be worse? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, a little bit, right? Because there's a standpoint of like, if you want it done right, do it yourself. And I think that there's a
subconscious
tendency
is even
there's a tendency
that's a real temptation in vocational ministry
for sure. But I think there's a temptation in all of us to like, well, I want to have a hand on this to like make it as good as I can possibly make it, right?
Yeah.
And I did my best too, but trusting it with God, like it led to I think our best year yet. And I would say that because of the deepening of community. We had just as many people come to Christ as we did last year. With 8 people come to Christ, 9 people get baptized this academic year. Like, it's good stuff. More students join the church just by deciding to join the church than they have before. And so
I watched them just walk to the front.
And so all those things, I think all those fruits are rooted in prayer. And good. So I'm really hopeful because, wow, I prayed a lot of things last year. God answered pretty much all of them in a positive way. And I was sitting praying with the Lord this past Friday and just kind of thanking him for this past semester and just kind of recounting things. And I was just reminded of like, hey, God's just here answering prayers. Like, what do you want to pray for? Like, what's on the table, you know? And and I was like, Lord, help me know what to pray for and help me know what to ask for. Because it seems like you're answering it. So why not ask for the next thing there, And so it's exciting. It's an exciting place to be, where the Lord's moving in our church and moving in our college ministry. And I'm hopeful for next year because we always have great students. The Lord always brings new students to our ministry that I'm like, oh man, I can't imagine college ministry without this person. And it's,
I love that.
And there's a new one of those every year, several of those every year.
I love it. I love all of it.
Yeah. Very hopeful.
That is a hopeful
excited.
note to end on.
Yeah.
And there's a lot, I think, for the listener, there's a lot, for those have ears to hear, to just extrapolate that in your own context, your own life, your own heart.
Yeah.
And start with prayer.
Well, and I would say,
lean on God.
If you are at home, you're not a college student, you're not part of our college ministry, if you have time, prayer walk with Connor this summer, email him.
It's tons of fun.
8:30 in the morning? Is that when you normally do it? Ish?
Well, it depends on the day. But
Okay. But just email Connor.
As both of them had just said, start with prayer.
Yeah.
We are working on this neighborhood chaplain initiative. So if you, everybody lives somewhere.
Yep. You want a prayer walk of your own?
Yeah, prayer walk for your neighborhood.
Got a street
and
or
I would
a complex.
love to help you figure out how you do neighborhood chaplaincy. Pray for your neighbors. The first habit in the bless habits is begin with prayer. Pray for your neighbors by name. And I'd love to help you do that. Yeah. So email me at luke.stehr@fbca.org. And we're doing trainings for Sunday school classes that you can sign up for. And I'd love to help you do that too.
If you've never gone on a prayer walk, you might not have before. If you never have,
we'll teach you.
Come on to this UTA. I'll teach you.
It's not weird. Well, I mean, it's not too weird.
Right. Yeah. If you're okay with praying out loud in a public space for like a minute or two, that's great.
Yep.
And then walking around.
Yeah. Cool. We'll teach you.
Get your steps in.
If you can pray over your fajitas at Papacito's, you can pray for UTA.
Oh, there we go.
We love it. Okay. This was very fun. Thank you, Connor, for joining us.
Of course.
And we'll see you all next week. Thanks for listening to the Tell Me More podcast today. You can subscribe to this podcast on your app of choice, or you can visit us at fbca.org to find out more information about the podcast and our church. Thanks for listening. Have a good day.